Today we're sitting down with Luke Connolly. How are you, Luke?
I am well, Evan. I'm well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So before we get started, I just want to ask, do you consider yourself a shadchan?
Uh, Considering I can't even properly pronounce it, I'm going to say no. But I definitely love the concept of it. We're very happy and proud of what we've done with IsoDate, and I think the baseline of it is bringing together relationships and helping, Jewish singles find that other half of their soul. That's kind of like how it's written in the holy books and stuff. It's about bringing people together and completing oneself. And I love that concept. And I think, we've been really fortunate to see that happen through our platform. Um, and I'm really grateful for that. I would err on the side of caution of too much of saying, oh yeah, I am, because I think there is a real, I think it's almost close to a religious devotion. There is some form of very wholesome part of a person that takes on that part of themselves. And yes, there's little thank yous from a financial perspective, but the vast majority of those who are doing it because they're trying to bring people together, and they want to help the faith, they want to help the community, they want to help their their sense of who they are, and who everyone is. So I think we're happy, and I think in a number of ways, yes, but I'd say on the bigger picture, I think I like the idea, but I'll err on the side of caution and say probably not.
All right. So before we dive too deep into IsoDate, let's just dive into your background, where you're from, and how'd you get involved in the dating industry?
Yeah, okay. So I'm a bit of a mongrel, as my mother used to say. So I was born to an Irish mother and technically an Irish father who was kind of raised in England from a young age. Born in England, spent a lot of my life, early years, back and forth to Ireland. Kind of very, very wholesome kind of community upbringing. Mom's from a very small village, where I used to joke that there's more letters in the town name than there are people living in it. Which is, when you've experienced that, coming back to a big city like Birmingham, which is the second biggest in England, where I was raised, is like very different world. So I was very, very grateful for that and that opportunity. Moved to Canada when I was a wee 25-year-old lad. All this promise, all this thought. Met a girl previous to that, hadn't worked out, and then decided to just give it a go anyways, and didn't really look back. Loved it. Met some great people. And my marketing background kind of was marketing, advertising, public relations. I was a qualified, I had a first class degree in journalism and marketing communications. So I'd done that for a number of years, got bored of journalists and writers getting paid nothing, and thought, well, this is not exactly what I want. So I did a number of roles and did a lot of hosting and all kinds of stuff. But one of the jobs I did in kind of the later years that I really loved was I worked for a couple of big dating companies. One was just a contract that I picked up. Another was they came directly to me, and one was Match.com, and running their in-person events and seeing how I could affect people's lives through that was really interesting, really quite exciting. Helping people, communicate. And I think back to one of my favorites and my first ever did back in England. And I'll always remember the poor guy. You'd always see the same guys. And, we get a lot on the platform, a lot of people I talk to still, guys who aren't the most outwardly confident, stuff like that. And they'd come in to this live event direct from work, they'd grab a beer, they'd grab a pint, and they'd be there and they'd be looking over, and you'd catch them looking at a particular woman or someone who'd caught their eye, but they just wouldn't know how to engage the conversation. And a lot of times there was one particular guy, and he was having a couple of drinks, building up what we'd call Dutch courage in the UK. He finally went over, and the woman, it's so funny. I used to joke, women hunt in packs. They don't come alone; they'll come with all their female friends who aren't single. And so, for a man who's also not that confident going over, and I just watched this guy go over. All the women look up at the same time and look at him, and he just did a full 360 and went straight back to the bar. So I went over, talked to him, brought him over, got her, got them, and they ended up actually going off, dating, and actually getting married. And
Oh,
it was the
wow.
first taste that I'd had of that. Like, it was one of my first events. Obviously, I didn't hear about the marriage until like a year and a bit later, but it really, something really kind of stuck in me. And when COVID happened in 2020, I'd been working as a marketing consultant for big brands, doing live events, experiential marketing, stuff like that. And obviously all that stopped. So I saw an opportunity. I met my co-founder Greg and our other co-founder Laylit, and between us we decided, right, let's kind of go on this idea I've had and let's develop it more. And then IsoDate, the platform, was kind of born, and yeah, that's kind of how it started and where we're at now.
All right, that's an awesome story. So you mentioned that you started IsoDate during COVID, at the beginning of COVID. So what is IsoDate for all the listeners that don't know?
Yeah, exactly. So I think by the time this has gone off, we're probably actually sat under a different name of Ditto. So we've gone through this very, very major rebrand, and very excited to kind of go to market with this bigger pitch. But from the get-go, IsoDate was all about helping people date better. And that's what we're continuing with Ditto. It's about making relationships more about the person, not the profile. And I think, even from what you're doing with MoDate, it's an idea of trying to bring people together in a more organic and natural way. And, that was it, because I realized, I've never had a problem going up and initiating conversation. The one thing I've always had to hold back on is talking too much. I got in trouble at school, and yet when it came to dating, I was just categorically bad at dating on apps. I just didn't, because I like to talk, so I'd communicate that in a lot of messages, and people would say, hey, it's too much, it was intense, and I never understood it. It's like, well, you're matching with all these people, I'm trying to stand out, I'm trying to engage you in a fun, and like, how am I meant to play this? And I think people got to a stage, and I very much believe that people are very burnt out, and it doesn't matter whether they're Jewish, whether they're Christian, whether they're Indian, whether they're just, a general data in New York or in London or wherever. They are just burnt out with the journey. And I think so many of us actually, although it's crazy, part of us longs for the time that land the land that time forgot, the dating journey of our grandparents or of our parents, where they met one person and they and there are downsides to that. There are a lot of relationships that probably shouldn't have stayed together, but they did. But there's also something very wholesome about actually really giving yourself to one person and focusing, and like trying to bring that attention span back. And that's kind of what we've done, is by making your first interaction a video speed date. Like, it's a short interaction, but it's long enough for you to get an understanding of what a person is like, how they perceive the world, how they perceive you. Are they crazy? Like, are you gonna message on an app and then meet someone like, oh wow, Luke is nuts. I can't deal with this. You need to know these before you kind of agree to meet. So the platform is all about literally what I said. It's people, not profiles. It's about being your true, honest version of yourself. And people fall in love with personalities. They don't fall in love with looks. Looks are what catch your eye, or this, or attraction, but it's the soul. It's who they are that you really fall for and build a lasting relationship with. So that's kind of what we're continuing with Ditto.
Okay, so will Ditto be the same virtual speed dating kind of system, or will there be additional features, or how exactly will that work?
Yeah, so obviously, I suppose for everyone listening right now, we are recording this official launch, but by the time it goes out, it will be a wholly different situation. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be two fully integrated apps that are ready to go, built in a way that helps users date better. It's going to, the core value of what IsoDate was trying to do is still what we're bringing over, but now it's on a far bigger level. We have these ideas of these I won't say, and just in case, but there are these very, very unique experiences once, twice, three times a week that are going to engage a New York Jewish single community in a different way. It's about something fun, something bigger, like bringing the idea of events and excitement, and also dating, but also convenience and speed. That's the two things we don't want to say that you should rush a date, but at the same time, 10 hours a week swiping which is the general average right now, is categorically wrong. That's broken. There's something really not right there. So we're going to fix that. We're going to make your initial experiences really quicker. If you can do an event that's fun, you had a fun kind of experience at the beginning, and then you got 8 to 10 dates, and you got met this great guy, or vice versa, it's going to be a lot easier to move forward, because you you know a little bit about them. You've, asked about, what's their observance level. You've got to understand a bit about their family. Are they open to relocation? Like, do they ever think about moving back to Israel? Like, it's
Hmm.
all these questions that do they want kids? Have they already got kids? Things that obviously, if anyone hasn't done one of these yet, probably don't ask if they have kids on the first 3 or 4 minute interaction you have. It's maybe a little intense, ask them about who they are and their personality and get to know them. But yeah, this is the idea. There's a lot of fully fledged ideas. There's very nuanced events. So if people are looking for, very observant events, we'll have those still. If they're looking for just what I love, one of my favorite terms, Jewish, I think it's a great term. And if people want that, then yeah, we're going to have that a lot more kind of just open, everyone can come. You're Jewish, but you're nothing too kind of specific. But if you're looking for, someone that has the same observance, the same preference to what they're looking for in a partner, then we're still going to have those events. But we're going to make the post experience a lot more enjoyable. It's going to be quicker. It's going to be easier to communicate. It's going to be a lot more fun, and we're going to really push the user to continue that video first presence and that voice presence, because we don't want you to finish a video date and then just become this, because that isn't what we're about. And I just don't think people are the best versions of themselves if they're just texting, because they're not thinking about it.
All right, very cool. So how many hours a week did you say the average person spends swiping?
It's crazy. It's 10 to 12 is
That's wild.
the average millennial. And just to give you a bit more on that, that isn't even dating. That is literally swiping, messaging, getting rejected, getting ghosted. That is just trying to get to a date. And the average number at the moment for people that are getting a date from their matches is about 24%.
Wow.
And if you take in other figures, where in 1,000 swipes, there was a big study by a university in the UK in 2018. 1,000 swipes, 2 generic profiles, male, female, which they classified to be about the same level of quote unquote attraction. And they animated, there was someone messaging from, but there were stock pictures, right? But they wanted to see the male received eight matches in 1,000 swipes, and the
Wow.
female received about 90. So if you're that one guy who's matched with one of these girls, and even a little bit of these figures, you're already going up against, let's say, 30 other guys. So straight away, you that's a tough fight. And then you've got to be engaging, and then you've got to try and get her attention when people aren't thinking about dating apps in the right way. And then you've got to make sure that it's interesting enough that she responds, and that you're keeping an eye on your phone enough. And that it's hard to work. It's hard to do anything when your focus is not on your work. So there's so many parts that just lead into it being a broken system. And it's, if you want a casual thing, then that's, I really think vast majority of dating apps are. Not that people can't find happiness and haven't found, all the big apps have had tons of results and success, great. But when the vast majority of users coming into it are feeling already dejected or already like a bit down with the process, it's going to be, disappointing. And for a 24% success rate to actually get to a day, and then less than a 6% from that 24% into a second date, there's serious problems there. And every human being is just going to be like, I can't do this. We're just going to burn out.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't know those stats, but that's great to have. And
Yeah,
it's funny because as we transition this conversation into more of the Jewish dating world, in the modern Orthodox dating world, you kind of have the opposite problem. Not in the sense anything casual or anything like that. It's actually a lot less casual in the modern Orthodox dating world. And I would say that the majority of matches actually turn into dates, or at least a way higher percentage, maybe not the majority,
absolutely.
but there are more females than males generally on whatever apps or platforms, MoDate included, that are in the specific world. But as you mentioned earlier, you yourself are not Jewish, and IsoDate and now Ditto are really entering heavily into the Jewish world. So just want to hear about how that happened and what you've learned along this journey.
For sure. And I think it's something that I'm very cognizant of and very careful, like, on how I approach this, because we've had people that have turned around and said, well, why do you think you have the right to be here or in this space? Or, and I understand their frustrations, but at the end of the day, you know, creed, race, color, religion, none of it matters for me if you're helping a community, if you're doing something
For
positive.
sure.
And we found the vast majority of people, they've responded well to it. Now, in the early days, I'll be honest, like so much of it was because it was a community that was so intrinsically focused in finding a match. It's a huge part of being Jewish, isn't it? Like I don't think that's unfair to say. I think as we kind of further progress in this, it's understanding, and it's always been from day one. It's understanding. It's learning about the nuances, the variant ways that people describe their observance levels. Like there are so many ways of looking at it, and talking of the modern Orthodox world, even that itself is so intrinsically confusing at times. And yet you spoke about it. There is a problem. There is a problem there, and like you have a literal crisis where you have this group of females who are wonderful, passionate, driven, smart, intelligent, and they're desperate to find this partner, and they can't, because the way it skews is that so many of the guys have gone and dated and ended up marrying younger. So you literally have this, and this isn't me saying, this is fact. This is where so many are coming in and trying to address, is that this kind of 29 to 36, 37-year-old female is stuck in a world where it's almost hard to compete, so to speak. And I think the only way around that is literally about engaging the people, connecting the people in a better way. The way that you do it with your connectors, I think, is a brilliant way. I think it's about saying, right, okay, guys, stop worrying about age, stop worrying about this. Like, look at the person. Don't worry if she's 32, 33, because 32, 33-year-olds are totally fine and still can do everything. And my mom is a midwife, and last week a woman gave birth to her first child at 48. So
Wow.
if that's the worry of a person, said modern medicine and science and all kinds of things are making the world a very different place. But it's how do we readdress these issues? And as we've kind of gone on this journey, we've always been very mindful to learn first and to respond second, because we feel that we feel very adamant in what we're doing. We feel very confident in helping a community. We've, in the brief couple of years that we've been operating, maybe 18 months to just 2 years of the events. Obviously when we've recorded this podcast, we've seen 6 engagements in our Modern Orthodox events. That's not like relationships, that's engagements. And we
Wow.
are incredibly, incredibly proud of that, because, to take it away, that is 6, 7 future children, 8 children, 9 children that have been born from the product of what we put together, helping people. We've had emails, you get emails, and you'll start to get them obviously with the platform, where people are like, I'd lost hope. I was so frustrated. And when you get one email, all the frustrations of business and trying to get things right and working out, am I right to do this? Is this the right decision? For those one beautiful email or text where you say, hey, I just want to let you know I met this person at one of your events. I was having the worst time, and I've never been so happy, or I just feel so grateful. It just gives you such hope, and you kind of go, okay, cool. So for me, it doesn't matter about being Jewish or Christian or black or white or like any of this. It's about helping people be happy and helping people succeed. And listen, if you want to be single your whole life, fantastic, and more credit to you. But if you want to find someone to spend that life with, we're here to help, and we want to make sure that we do it in a better way. And so we look at the problems and we go, right, what's the solution? That's every company that move forward. Any new company should be doing that. That's number one thing of what's the problem, what's your solve? And we're trying to solve that by making it about people, and it'll take time, and Rome wasn't built in a day. And what we're ultimately doing is we're changing user habits and human habits. And if I told you, Evan, hey, I see you tie your shoelaces left to right, but actually science has found, and these studies found, right to left is actually quicker. You're a grown man and you've been doing it your whole life that way. Habits are incredibly difficult to change. That's why we have issues with weight and this and that and aggression and whatever it might be. So if we can start to change how people, the habitual tendencies around dating, we can start to solve things. And so I'm very proud of what we've done in the Jewish world. It's a community that is very important to me. And when I moved to Canada, like the people that literally became the biggest part of my life were Jewish individuals, people that came from Jewish backgrounds who I met through different events and work. And they had me into their home for for dinners, for celebrations that I wasn't really part of, but like they really just extended. And I think that's what any faith really, for me at least, it's being a good person. And I wouldn't turn my back because they don't exactly believe in, and that's how people start to believe and start to understand. So I'm just hoping we can help people find happiness and find love and do kind of, what they want to do. I think it's the same reason that you're doing what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an awesome message, and you're definitely doing amazing things, and obviously will continue to with Ditto. And I think that the age thing is definitely an interesting aspect of the shidduch crisis as Modate kind of transitions into more of a dating app than it was before. Now that we have the
Correct.
website and it's more like an app, it's kind of hard to like solve for age because you have to ask people how old they are and you have to ask people how old they're willing to date because you don't want to have someone who's totally out of the range. But I think
For sure.
a big part of this podcast and just like different marketing that I do is to try to like dispel these things that are habitual to people that guys have to date girls that are younger than them. We've had podcasts talking about that. And then on Modate itself, there are different ways that we go about trying to solve the shidduch crisis in the sense that I don't know if you've seen, but generally in the modern Orthodox and more observant worlds, the guys are asked first about whether or not they'd want to date a specific girl, and then the girls are asked, which ultimately leads to guys having way more, I guess, power and
Control.
suggestions and control. And so on Modate now, both sides get the potential match at the same time, which I think definitely will help even the playing field a little and hopefully won't hurt too many feelings. Anyway, it's really awesome what you're doing, but we're going to move into the MoPod's favorite segment, the MoPod lightning round, where I'm just going to fire off some quick questions and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
Sounds good.
All right. What is one word you would use to describe Jewish dating?
Complex.
What is your favorite season of the year?
Autumn.
What day do you think my birthday is?
You come across as an August kind of guy.
No, incorrect. Okay. It's okay though.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to space?
Not with Elon Musk.
If you saw a squirrel that had $100 in its mouth, but then dropped the money for a second to grab an acorn, would you take the money?
No, I'd befriend the squirrel and share him.
Okay. What is the most annoying complaint you get on a regular basis?
About me or about dating?
About dating.
Um, Guys being too picky and guys asking the wrong questions.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
See.
All right. Thank you, Luke Connolly, for coming on the MoPod. Anything else you want our listeners to know before we sign off?
No, I think at the end of the day, just I want to say a big congratulations to what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you don't have to change the world. You just have to change one person's world. And I think what you're doing is a great idea. I'm excited by the friendship, the relationship that you and I have got, and we've started to build. And as we build Ditto out more, if we can find ways to work together, I want to, because as you said, trying to level the playing field in the modern Orthodox world is a massive, massive thing. And the crisis is literally, I think it's because of an unbalanced playing field. And as we've found from the successes that we've had when people have had the video interaction and they've actually met, the first thing is they've just met the person. They don't know age, they've met the person. It's hard not to fall for a person. And that's the thing. And Modate specific events, things that really bring people together. But I think you should be very proud of what you've done, very proud of what you're trying to do. You're trying to help your community. You're also a businessman. You're also trying to do something better. And I think more credit to you.
Yeah, same exact message to you. And you're doing it for people that I mean, I'm a modern Orthodox Jew, and you're doing it for people that you're not even the same community background. Obviously, you do it for more than just modern Orthodox Jews, but still, it's just an amazing thing that you're doing, trying to help people. And I'm excited to see what Ditto has to the future holds, and just good luck.
Thank you so much, Evan. I really appreciate it. And fingers crossed we can talk again in the future when we're both sat watching another couple that we've helped get married.
For sure. Pump the volume.